Welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and the many ways to achieve financial independence. We interview accomplished investors and entrepreneurs with the goal that their stories inspire you to take control of your financial future. Here to get your creative juices flowing, while also documenting their own personal investing journeys, are your hosts, Corey Jacobson and Ryan Bevilacqua.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey. Today we had a phenomenal guest on the show. He is actually a 9-year veteran of the NFL. His name is Devon Kennard. He's played for a number of teams, the Giants, the Lions, the Cardinals, and then most recently the Ravens. And the coolest part about him is he's not only a family man, NFL man, but he also is a real estate investor that has a portfolio of over 25 units, coming up on 30 by the end of the year. He's in a bunch of syndications, but he puts his message out on social media. And he's also, I forgot to mention, 2019 Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Yep. He's just like an overall very intelligent and great guy that is sharing his story with the world. He's just bettering all those around him. And I was telling him through the episode, I'm like, dude, you don't understand how much value and how many people are quietly rooting for you, whether you know it or not just on the field, but by all the value you're bringing and teaching people how to invest their money strategically.
100%. Portfolio-wise, he's in Indiana, he's in Kansas City, and then he's also looking in the Tampa market. I think I might have missed one there, but he got involved in real estate investing, learned about it in college, just kind of created this like frugal mindset. He's got such a great story, but also gives you some real ins and outs of the NFL during this episode, which I think is so cool because it's not very often we get to talk to somebody who played in the league, and not just like playing in the league. Like, dude was a 5th-round draft pick, knows his exact number because of all the teams that passed on him, balled out in the league, a couple years with like 9+ sacks, like a real legit NFL veteran. And he kind of puts it all together here for us. It gives us some ins and out details of like what goes on in the league, like what are the politics like. So it's a really cool, free-flowing conversation. We really vibe throughout the episode. And then, add the cherry on top. He talks about how he built his real estate portfolio and then some tips and tricks that other people can use it actionably in their journeys. Also his book, too, which he promotes during the episode. Definitely take a look.
Called It All Adds Up. It actually came out yesterday.
Yep, It All Adds Up. That's right. So, I mean, we really liked Devon. I think he just was like a light for us. Really great story. And without further ado, let's just bring him in. Let's do it.
Devon, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice Podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on the show, man. We've done a little bit of research on you. We watch you on Sundays, man. So overall, so thrilled to have you on the show and share your story with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Been excited to hop on with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So this will be a fun one for us. If you could, take us through the journey, man. So I think we should start back to, I guess, your journey into the NFL and then how you became a real estate investor and what framed the mindset for you that you knew you needed to pursue investing.
It kind of goes back. Coming out of high school, I was the highest recruit in the country. At one point, arguably number 1 and number 2 with Matt Barkley, who went to USC with me as well. So, it was one of those situations where I could have went anywhere in the country. In my senior year of high school, I was playing like our rival school, and I tore my ACL. And that was kind of the start of a lot of ups and downs for me on the football field. I go to USC, I commit, and then I go through position changes, coaches changes, injuries, and just over and over again, I felt like I was getting punched in the mouth. And my dreams felt like they were slipping away. And it made me ask myself a question, like, do I want to be successful because of football, or do I want to be successful no matter what? And, I was like, man, I want to find success and be able to reach my goals regardless of the NFL. But growing up, all I ever envisioned reaching success was through the NFL and making a ton of money going that route. So it started to make me ask myself those questions, which led me to a mentor that I met. And I love telling the story because he kind of changed my life. And I remember going to his office in LA when I was playing for USC and hearing his full story. And he was a teacher turned police officer, and he was patrolling neighborhoods, bought his first property. That led to the next property. And now the man owns thousands of units in LA. He has his own property management company, manages over like 6,000 units, and is just killing it. And he's, saying and telling me the story about how he started off with the police officer's salary. And that's when the flip really switched for me as far as real estate, because I was like, if this man was able to build that off of a police officer salary, which I don't know exactly what it was making, but typically
less than the NFL, probably.
Yeah, they don't make a ton of money. So my mindset was like, man, even if I make it to the NFL and I only play 1 year, I'm going to be 23-year-olds with a couple $100,000 in my pocket, and that's a great jump start. So it kind of was like, all right, I gotta do real estate. And I got into the NFL, and I immediately started learning. And I actually got discouraged when I got into the NFL because most guys in the locker room, especially at that time, everybody had like financial advisors, and it was like stock market. And I feel like that's what I was supposed to do. Like I had a mindset of real estate, and it did seem like there was many guys around me doing that. So I went the stock market route initially, and I just started to realize, like, man, the fluctuation and there was no consistency. And then it's like, it didn't seem to answer the issue of how is this going to provide income for me to take care of my family when I'm done playing, when, you invest in a stock and you just hope in 10, 15, 20 years it goes up. It just didn't make sense to me. So that's when I went back to real estate. I bought my first property, $86,000 in Beech Grove, Indiana, with an old teammate of mine. We each put $12,000 down, and that's what started it all. And it just got the ball rolling.
That's awesome, Devon. I think one of the things I want to touch on is the balance that you were able to have between the amount of time and energy it takes to be a good player in the league, which you certainly were, played for a number of teams, played a number of years, still trying to actively play. I'm curious, how did you balance, like, okay, I know how hard I have to go at action, and how many years you have. You have a tight window to try to make those prime years count. And then also the balance of, like, well, as you start to build this portfolio, that takes time and effort too. I can't imagine having to spend the time and energy that it would take to be a professional athlete and then also real estate investing on the side. Can you touch on that mindset that you had?
Well, I'll say everybody has certain advantages and things in your life, network, relationships, money, family, whatever it is. Use your specific situation, your life, to your advantage. So for me, it was like, football has to be the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. I never buck that. I would never cheat the game that way. But people always kind of would say, like, how are you able to do all these other things? And I'm like, how are you able to be on Fortnite for, 8 hours and staying up till 2 a.m? How are you able to go to the club and be in the strip clubs and party? Like, it's no different. My hobby, my interest outside of the game of football became real estate, financial literacy, building that. So I'm like, that's how, I gained a strong interest in these things, and I was learning about it. On my way to work, I'm listening to podcasts. During workouts, I have headphones in, listening to an audiobook. I just, you make time for the things that matter to you. Just like I would see guys in this training camp, and they're bringing video games to training camp. So when our day is over, they're playing it in the locker, in their hotel room. I'm reading a book. I'm listening to an audiobook. I set up a call with an investor that I like. So it's all about what matters to you and the things you prioritize. And that was something that I put high on the radar for me after football. And then I think another big component that I realized, and now I'm able to finally articulate it, is I built what I call the trifecta of investing. And for me, there's 3 things that you need to look at that I think most people, especially if you're trying to invest in a way when you have a 9-to-5 job or another career, there's 3 things I'm looking for. Number 1 is it needs to be passive. The caveat there is you can make any business or any investment strategy passive depending on how you set it up, how you structure it, and who you have around you. So it needs to be passive. It needs to cash flow. Because I want to be able to reach my TMI, which is target monthly income. So it needs to cash flow. And third, there needs to be appreciation. So I need to feel like it's going to grow over time. So once I started to realize, all right, I'm looking for investment vehicles and strategies that meet my trifecta, and I take it and run with it. And that's what kept funneling me towards real estate. And, I feel like there's 3 different ways I really invest in real estate now. And that is I invest by owning properties in markets where I have my core 4: property manager, a real estate agent, a contractor, and a lender. If you have those 4 pieces, then you can invest passively and which it still takes some time, but I'm spending a couple of hours a month instead of 40 hours a week. So, that was one. And then syndications. I'm in a ton of syndications, and I was able to get into syndications, and learn about those, and you get a dividend. So you're getting quarterly payments, and you get to participate in the growth when they close. And third is short-term lending. Being a professional athlete, we have extra capital. I can lend that to someone like yourself, and you're trying to do a deal, and I can charge double-digit interest with the collateral being the property. So those are the 3 things that I started, 3 strategies within real estate that I was like, they meet my trifecta. And I didn't have it lined up like that in my head then, but that's always what I was looking for.
Love it, man. I want to get into your portfolio specifically and kind of like your buy box and what you do maybe in the properties that you own. But before we do that, I want to ask you what it was like mentally to try to, what you did, I guess, to prepare yourself mentally to avoid lifestyle creep, right? We experience it we make a lot less money than NFL players do, but like, I imagine that it's pretty tempting when you're making millions of dollars a year, even if you're starting out, even several high $100,000, it's really tempting to go buy the new car. It's really tempting to go get the house. And maybe you did all those things in a plan that you were able to sustain it. But what about your mentality do you think it was that allowed you to say, okay, I really need to put all this money aside? Was it something that your financial advisor taught you, or was it a mindset from the USC days? I'm really curious.
I think there's 2 major points I would want to respond back with that. And one is delayed gratification. 2, the whole spend $50,000 a month, and as your income grows, keep it at $50,000 a month. I think it's BS. And a lot of financial gurus are going to hate me for saying that, but I experienced it in real life, in real time, and considering myself being somebody that's conservative. So I'll go back to college. After my mandatory bills were paid in college, I lived off of $300-$400 a month. So I get into the NFL, and I'm like, man, after I didn't rent the most expensive place. I could have lived. You guys are Philly, so you might know. I could have lived in Hoboken or Weehawken and had New York City views. I lived in Secaucus, right around the corner from the Meadowlands where we practiced and played for the Giants. And, that was strategic. I wanted to keep my expenses down and live reasonably. But even with saying that, I told myself I was only going to spend $1,000 a month. After all my bills are done, I'm only going to spend $1,000 a month. That lasted half a month. I wasn't doing anything OD, but it's I lived in New York now. My family's in Arizona. I take a flight home. That's a few $100s. I go to dinner in New York City. That's a few $100s. A fresh pair of J's came out. I just signed a contract. I'm never going to buy those new sneakers. No, I buy them here and there. $1,000 gets ate up quickly, even if you're a very conservative person. So I realized you want to keep your spending down, but to act and some people might be able to do it, but for a vast majority of people out there, they feel like they're failures because they turned a $75,000, salary, and now it's $100,000, and now they're spending a little bit more. And it's I found that it's unrealistic to think you're going to still live off of the exact amount you did before. You just have to scale up within reason. Yep. And, for me, it was what does that look like? I always wanted to keep my spread as wide as possible. So keep your fixed expenses low and push your earning potential as high as you can. So while I've been playing in the NFL, it's let me get as good as I can at what I do so I can go and get the biggest contracts. And then my spending is going to go up a little bit, but let me keep it reasonable. So this spread grows and grows and grows. And now I have more money to invest. And so that mindset of delayed gratification, I'm not going to buy all that stuff right now. I'm going to wait and keep the spread high. that's what really put me in a position to be successful.
So I have a couple for you too, and I've heard some previous stories about you, which I think are so cool. Can you talk to us about the first car you drove during your first season and how it was pulling up to the lot with everybody, a couple of guys having Lambos, the Wraiths, all that, and what you pulled through with? And then potentially also talk about how you utilize your marketing money so you didn't have to go strictly to the salary.
Yeah. So it's a humbling story, but it's actually even on CNN. I did a whole CNN article on this, but my first year when I got into the league, I shipped out my high school and college car, which was a 2005 Kia Sorento, beat up, and I shipped it out to New Jersey because I didn't want to buy a new car. I was a 5th round draft pick. I signed $100 and something $1,000 signing bonus my rookie season, but you got to cut that damn near in half, especially in New York. So I was like, I'm not trying to buy a new car. So I thugged it out in my 2005 Kia Sorento, and it was humbling. You're going to games and going to practice every day, and you're seeing some stuff in the parking lot, race and the Lambo trucks, and Range Rovers, Mercedes Benzes, like G-Wagons, everything you could imagine. And I'm pulling up in my 2005 Kia Sorento, and teammates would joke with me like, "Come on, bro, when you get the new car?" And I'm like, "Man, one day I will, but like it can wait." Once again, delayed gratification. So it's not that I didn't want those things. So people would look at me and look at that and like, "Oh, DK doesn't care about those things. He doesn't want it." Like, that was never the case. But it was like, I'm gonna wait till I get those things. And the only reason why I changed from that 2005 Kia Sorento is it slid out on 2 times on black ice. My first time ever seeing snow. So another funny story, I'd like never seen like snow really falling. We get out for work one day, and it's around Christmas time, and my windshield is covered in snow and ice. And like you guys probably know, being from the East Coast, but I didn't have like a scraper or a brush, so I'm out there with bare hands, like scraping.
Oh, roughing it.
I'm thinking my windshield wipers are just gonna like wipe it up, and my windshield wiper like not moving. So I'm trying to get the ice. Then there's like a thin layer of like ice to where my whole windshield was blurry, and it's an '05 car, so I didn't have like the heated windshield that like kind of melts out. So I just had to like wait until it thawed out, or some days I'm like driving, like trying to have the window open. I'm like, man, this is ghetto. This is getting ridiculous. And that really kind of was like led me to spun out twice on black ice, and I was like, I need to figure out a new car situation.
No, that's a funny story, and so yeah, at that point you're like, all right, at least I can get like a newer car that has newer technology. But I think it's funny, and I'm not sure if you talked about this on other podcast episodes before, but I think when people hear like, oh, I played in the NFL, or I play in the NFL, or I play in the NBA, whatever it is, like there are levels to this. You know what I mean? Like not everyone in the NFL, like Danny Dimes just signed a $40 million a year contract, right? Like that's not the type of money that we're talking about for most, if not 98% of the guys in the league. So I think I just want to remove the stigma that people are like, oh, well, yeah, if you played in the league, like you have all this money, it must be so easy to invest. And I think that's like not the case, man. Like you're a 5th round draft pick. Like, yes, you did make great money in the league, no doubt about it. But like that money compared to like, yeah, if you make $25 million a year, you can put it in the stock market and never think about it. Because at some point after 25 years, you're just going to make 8%. It'll be totally fine. But you had to find your own way. Like you had to like, and you obviously had the mindset to do that too. So I just want to throw that in there because when we release the episode, we're going to like talking to somebody who played in the league. It's not always like the dudes who are making $15 million a year. Like that is not, and I say it's not the majority. It's like 95+% or no.
Yeah, I would throw out an educated guess and say that like majority of the league ends their career making $5 million or less.
Right. And probably like what's the average lifespan of a career? 4 years? Like
4 years. So that's including some guys who end up playing 7 or 8 and get a decent second deal. Like that's including those guys, because the average NFL career is 3.5. So you're talking those guys made a few $100,000. They're lucky if they had in their pocket, or $1 million or $1.5 million. So those guys who are only playing 3.5, that's all they're getting. But even if you add in some guys who play 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, even 8 years, there's a lot of guys out there who, when you say how much they actually got paid after taxes, after all their fees, majority of guys make $5 million or less. And like $5 million is a lot of money. So I'm not
A lot of money.
But it's not nearly as much as people, think when you're talking about guys who that is all they're gonna make, or like vastly majority of what they're gonna make. And when you're thinking about they had to buy their personal house, their mama house, they got a car, so you start to dwindle that down, and then you have expenses that come on top of that. So the biggest issue with pro athletes, and that's where it's like, it's getting to a point where some guys are getting paid so much money to where, like you said, it's really not going to matter unless they're absolutely, idiots with it. But even then, so many guys have lifestyle habits and lifestyle expenses that are so high that it becomes problematic. If before you blink at the first of the month every month, your bills are $50, $60, $100,000 a month, even if you got 20 in the bank, that's real.
Yep.
And having those kind of expenses isn't that crazy when you start to factor in, they bought $4 million crib. Then think about the bills that come with a $4 million crib and some of the help that you need. They probably got a cleaner. They probably have a ridiculous pool maintenance person. They probably have lawn service. So you start to think about that. They bought their mom a $600,000 crib. They got a Rolls Royce and this, and so you start to, and then think about the insurance on those things. Then they got a big chain, a Rolex, a bust down. They got insurance because they don't want that to get, you start to accumulate all that before they spent a dime. Their life expenses and their bills and fixed expenses, I should call them, are an extravagant amount of money. And then they're still traveling and they still hit the clubs and they're still doing the things that they like to do in their life. And that's how you can make a ton of money and still end up in a distressed situation a few years after you're done playing.
Dude, just all those things you added up right there. I feel like that evaporates the whole check, the whole deal.
Yeah, so you're making a couple $1 million. That's gone.
It's insane. When you buy these cribs too, it's like also you have more. I mean, unless you're paying in full, a lot of these have mortgages too. What are you going to be able to keep up with that even when you're done the league? You don't know what's going to happen, like injuries, God forbid, or just, the new guy comes in, the young cat. So for me, you've seen all this stuff firsthand, which is so cool. Cool in a way, right? It's kind of scary in a way as well. Yeah. But my thought is, do these stories or these situations, have these motivated you to help out guys around the league? Because I feel like you're a stud that's made your way through the league, but also you intelligently placed your money into investments that have become very fruitful, right? We talked about 25 units, almost coming up on 30 by the end of the year, bunch of syndications, and you have an advisor and things like that. And you're set, dude, right? Like you're 9th year in the NFL, coming up on number 10, hopefully, right? And we'll go through all the teams and everything. But for me, I'm like, dude, I want to go to Devon to get all the ins and outs and how I should be spending my money, even if I am making that massive check, because I don't want it all to be gone. So I'm just curious if you've had some people hit you up and that's maybe the reason for helping write your book. Like, what's your thoughts on the whole thing?
Well, I would say at first it was very intimidating because I didn't see a lot of people doing what I was doing investment wise. So I was like, am I tripping? Does this work? And then once I started to have success and some proof into what I was doing, then I gained confidence. But then it was like, I didn't want people to look down on me or to question my commitment to the NFL. Like it's that whole shut up and dribble. And, it's still a stigma. I think it's not as strong as it used to be because so many people have other interests outside of, just playing the game now, but they're still like, are you locked in? You're doing all this other stuff off the field, or you're posting about this and that, or so I had to get over those stigmas. But once I had gained the confidence and I was able to be like, man, anybody who knows me and is in work with me every day, they know how serious I take my job, how committed I am, the dedication I put. But this is things that I think matters and I'm passionate about outside of the game. So I just started to put out content, and the reception I've gotten not only across the NFL, but even other sports and regular fans, it's made me start to realize that I'm not saying anything that you guys don't know or probably don't say on this podcast or anyone else, but being an African American, being an athlete with my specific skill set, with my demographic, I can touch a different audience than a lot of people in the financial space, in the real estate space. And so it was kind of like, why not me? Why not now? And that was my motivation behind everything I'm doing on social media and writing my book. It all adds up. That just came out yesterday. Like that was, that was my motivation behind it.
Absolutely. So it all adds up, right? That's the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go check that out. By the time this episode comes out, his Devon's book will be out. So definitely check it out. But so I want to talk about your investing journey more specifically now. Like you mentioned, you have 25 units. You're trying to build to 30. You said you started in Indiana, I believe. That's where you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you? The question for you here is, we can talk about the syndications as well, but is your entire portfolio in Indiana? Can you talk about scaling that a little bit? Like, what did you realize, like, was your buy box and the area that you wanted to start to scale that thing?
So I started in Indiana because I met a flipper who was flipping tons of homes out there. My partner and I met, and he was kind of gave us game. We met at a meetup in the off season in Arizona. He happened to be in town. We got connected and went out there, and the market was attractive because he kind of gave us game and was kind of walking us through how he did it. And then on top of that, it was like, I liked the cost. Like when I was looking, I was playing in New York, and I'm from Arizona. Properties were way more expensive. So for me, I was like, I want to get started, but buying even a $300,000 property at the time just seemed crazy to me. So I'm thinking, I'm getting a 3-bed, two bath in Indiana for $86,000, and I'm putting 12 in, and my partner's putting 12. That just seemed like, I'll be pissed if I lose 12,000, but it's not gonna end me. So all right, let's go. So that was my mindset, but I quickly learned that I didn't have the core 4 that I mentioned. So that's a real estate agent. You need your lender, property manager, and contractor. I didn't have that in place there, and I wasn't able to scale. So I'm like, this one property was great, but I wasn't able to multiply. The guy that sold us the home, he found a couple of institutional buyers that were buying up all his inventory, and he started ghosting us and like not answering. So when I started to reach out saying I wanted to buy more properties, he was responding back in weeks, sometimes months. And like, I could just tell he wasn't really trying to play ball. So I was like, all right, I need to move on. And that led me to kind of figure out other markets. And I got connected in the Ohio market because of relationships. And I met a guy who was flipping on a large scale out there. And I built those 6 units, and I got into 6 properties there. And then I was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, heard about a guy who was doing properties in Kansas City, and I connected with him, went out there in the off season, started buying and bought 6 properties out there. And at the time, and really up until recently, I was buying turnkey properties. And the reason why I was doing that is I didn't have the bandwidth to handle a renovation and to trust people to do all of that. My main thing is football. I wanted it to be passive. So I didn't, trust that I can deal with all that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy turnkey properties. I bought it cash. So my first 13 properties in total, I bought cash, and I bought them for about $1.2 million. And I was generating anywhere from $9,000 to $11,000 in cash flow every month. And I was like, now we're talking. And I rolled out like that for a minute. And, that led me to closer to the last couple of years. And I started having bad issues with my core 4 in Ohio, property management. They stunk and were giving me issues. I low-key wanted to get out of Ohio. I was thinking about selling. Instead, I ended up refinancing, and I refinanced in a portfolio loan, and I got all of the money. So I put $600K into my properties in Ohio. I got $620,000 out, and they were still going to be cash flowing. So I'm like, all right, like now
That's the leverage game.
Now we're working. I made all this cash flow along the time, and then I got all my capital out. Now it's still going to cash flow. So then I do the same thing in Kansas City. They didn't appreciate as much. So of the $600K I had in, I got $500K out. So I was like, I own 13 total units now, and I'm at $100K in the ground. with properties that are still cash flowing. Like, okay, now I see how this real estate game works. And, now I've kind of evolved, and I'm not just doing turnkey, and I'm really focused on the Tampa market right now because I feel like I have a great core 4 team there that's taking care of things, and I'm kind of dived in. But I got value add projects going on out there, and 6 unit and a duplex, and I'm going to kind of let these get stabilized and then double down in the Tampa market. And it's a little higher. So I was buying a lot of Class C at first, like all those properties in Ohio, Kansas City, and my first one in Indy were closer to B minus, but probably like C plus. And now I'm with like B plus, like areas, like really solid, just because I found that cash flow, it looks better on paper in C areas. But when you start to talk about turnover and how they're taking care of your properties and the issues you have, I found that like, I rather have a little less cash flow on paper early on, but for stable properties with great tenants it's gonna pay out more in a couple of years than what I built. So I'm kind of shifted gears, and that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. You figure out what you want to do to start. Like, okay, this is what I can do to jump in the game, right? And then as you just like the league or just like playing football, you learn what you're better at, what your tendencies are, what I need to double down on, and then you switch. And it's like, we always say this about people that are looking to get involved in real estate investing. The way you start out is not going to be the optimal way for you to do it in 2 to 3 years, but at least you're in the game, right? Once you're in the game, you can learn what you like, what you don't like. I love that you're going to the Tampa market. I'm actually, one of my next projects is going to be Tampa, St. Petersburg as well, because I know how many
people in downtown.
Yeah. How many people are migrating there, man? It is crazy. Like, there's still properties that you can get for, maybe we shouldn't say it on the podcast.
Maybe can we go talk after this is done?
No, but it's a great market. There's migration to Texas and migration to Florida is huge, and I just think that is a long-term play. And then you also mentioned, like, I've seen properties for $50,000 that the numbers say that they're going to cash flow $2,000 a month, and there's just no way that it's going to happen because of the quality of tenant that you're going to deal with in that area. So I love going to the B market. I'm actually selling like a C property right now to go more into like the short-term rental space or into markets that are more sustainable, probably a little bit lower cash flow, but more equity growth. So I love the play there. Yeah, did you have something you want to go into?
Yeah, I want to talk, dude, your real estate investing portfolio and your journey is amazing. I feel like you were just walking us through a real life game of Monopoly, and it's so cool to see how you've played your game. I want to talk about like a day in the life in the NFL, because it's not so often that we get to talk to someone that has made it to the highest level of the game, right? So I hope you haven't answered a million of these questions on other podcasts where it gets boring to you, but for us, it's awesome. Dude, we literally watch you on Sundays, so it's so cool to be like, hey, someone in our network, Real Estate Investor Buddies, is literally in the NFL doing his thing at the highest level. So for me, can you talk us through just the teams that you've played for? And I also want to give you a shout out. I think 2019 me for Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yeah. Yep.
That's even cooler, to be honest. That's amazing. Like, you're really building up the community. It's amazing stuff. So I want to give you a shout out on that. But take us through the journey, and then I want to talk about your primary residence and how that was affected. For example, like, I know you just got traded from Arizona to the Ravens, and like in a 24-hour notice, you had to like pack up and just figure your life out. So I think that's cool for a real estate investor, because we're always like, all right, like, guys get traded all the time, but how does your life and your assets that you buy for your family, how are those affected? So I know there's a lot.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, to start out, so I was drafted in 2014, the 174th pick. I'll never forget it, because every NFL team thought there was 173 guys that were better than me. And I just finished my 9th year, and majority of those guys are out of the league. So, that's
that chip you're carrying, bro.
Yeah.
Chip on your shoulder.
The 174th pick to the New York Giants. And, my rookie season, I was told I'll just be a special teams guy, and I ended up starting most of the rookie season and went on to have a great career in New York for 4 years. And there was coaching changes after my 4th year. I thought I was going to come back and stay. I wanted to. I fell in love with New York. That was the organization that drafted me. But I learned about the business of the game very, very quickly. And it was like, they wanted me, but they wanted me for their price. And new coaches came in, and they chose to pay another guy more than they were offering me. And I was pissed, because I didn't think he was a better player than me at all. And so I had to walk, and it was a real sting to where it's like, man, this is a business. So I walked. I had other options. I ended up going to Detroit. I signed a very good deal to play for the Lions, and my career took off. And, what we're talking about on how I learned in real estate, the same thing was going on in football. So one thing I want to leave to your audience is like, keep adding value to yourself and growing. So when I was playing for the New York Giants, we'll get into a little football talk here. We ran a 4-3 defense, and I was playing Sam linebacker, and I had to be in coverage a lot, but I was naturally more of a pass rusher. So I didn't get a whole lot of opportunities to rush the passer, but when I did, I was performing well. Like I had like 9 sacks my last two years in New York, and that was with very limited pass rush opportunities. So, my whole intent was to get more opportunities wherever I went next. So I hired a pass.
Just highlight that though, DK, because the getting 9 sacks as an edge rusher whose only job is to get sacks is a pretty good number. Like I'm a Birds fan. Eagles had 5 players with 10 sacks this year, and that was like the most I don't know if it was the most ever, but it was like a big number. Yeah. And those were guys who like Brandon Graham, like Hassan Reddick, like dudes who rush the passer, right? So that's amazing, by the way. I just wanted to throw that out there to play mostly coverage and then still get 9 sacks. So go ahead, continue your story. I just wanted to.
Yeah. So I hire a pass rush specialist. I really want to work on my pass rush, show that I can do that. And then, I signed with Detroit, and I ended up having 2 of my best seasons ever in Detroit. And man, it was 2019. I'm at the Walter Payton Man of the Year finalist. There was a chance I could really win this thing. I'm in Miami. The Super Bowl was in Miami that year. I'm sitting down with the GM, the president, and the head coach of the Detroit Lions, breaking bread with them, hanging out. A couple weeks later is the day my wife and I got married. So we're getting married. All my teammates are there. Matthew Stafford, Marvin Jones, all the top guys who played with me in Detroit. And I get a call from the GM and the head coach, and they're like, DK, we're so proud of you. You guys have a great time. You're a big part of what we're doing here. We're gonna get this contract figured out because I had 1 year left on my deal, but it was no guarantees. So we're already coming back to the table like it's time to re-up. And they're like, we're going to get this figured out. You're everything we want this to be moving forward. And 2 weeks after that, I'm laying down on the massage table, get the massage. And I get a call from the GM, and they're like, DK, I don't think we're going to be able to pay you. We're about to release you. Matter of fact, we're actually going to try to trade you to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who at the time had TJ Watt and Bud Dupree at my position. So I'm like, no, don't trade me. You're going to trade me to a team where I have to be a backup. Just let me go so I can have a chance to sign somewhere and get a better contract. So I'm like literally begging and pleading to the same guy who was promising, or who was telling me congratulations 2 weeks ago and you're a part of this. So it was another punch in the gut of how real the NFL is and how much of a business it is. And long story short, I signed with the Arizona Cardinals. And to tie all this back into real estate, this was all happening when I was trying to close on my long-term home in Arizona, because we had our daughter. We decided Arizona was going to be our home base, and I'm trying to close, and in the middle of closing, I get cut. So the bank and the lender was tripping. They didn't care about how much money I had in my bank account. They don't like you're unemployed. Like they saw it online. Like I guess they monitor things and stuff. Because I was trying to keep it hush. I was like, don't tell them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the closing. But like they found out on their own. It was like, she's unemployed. They weren't about to give me, the loan. It was gonna make me fold on my house that I'm living in now. So I'm freaking out trying to figure all this out. And meanwhile, I'm in negotiations with the Cardinals. I signed with the Cardinals, and I have to get their payroll department to talk on the phone with them and show them my new contract. And I'm like, if it didn't happen that fast, I would have lost the property. And it made me realize. So that was a great lesson. And fast forward to the portfolio loan I told you I did in Kansas City and Ohio. It immediately made me realize I got to find other lending options, because they don't care about how much money I have in the bank, how good my credit score is. Like all they're tripping about is my income. And if I'm going to be a real estate investor and I don't have income coming in one day, how am I going to fund what I'm trying to do? So that was kind of a full circle moment for me.
Yeah, This is crazy, and I'm glad that you're willing to peel back the layers for us and go in the day in the life, because there's a lot of like outside lookers that think it's all glamorous, and in reality, like you can get cut from a text message. You know what I mean? I'm sure guys do. Like, honestly, the fact that you told me that the GM called you, it's like, even though it sucks, I bet that doesn't happen all. You had at least that relationship for whatever that was worth, but it's just like, damn, like it can happen like that, and you're kind of fortunate that you got traded to the Cardinals after that, right? That wasn't like, I like a favor from the Lions, or because it
made like lemonade out of lemon, because I was really hurt, to be honest. Like I was blindsided. Like I said, I was coming off my 2 best years in Detroit, and I was Walter Payton Man of the Year finalist. Was just with all these guys. At this time, I'm on billboards in Detroit. I'm on the side of the stadium. I'm on tickets. Like,
I feel like it's a lot.
I'm the team captain, 2-time team captain. Like, they completely blindsided me with this. But and then this is in the middle of COVID. So I left Detroit thinking we're coming right back in a couple of months for the off-season program. So my whole home is there, everything. I get cut. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get all that stuff. But my wife was afraid of me flying back to Detroit because of COVID, because this is all when this just happened. So I had to hire a moving team to pack everything up. Like my house was like, if I was going back in it. So like nothing was
packed. Yeah.
So I had to trust the moving team to like do everything from A to Z and move it to Arizona. And I haven't been back to Detroit since. So, that speaks to the realness. And then fast forward to this past season, you're asking about the Arizona Cardinals and Baltimore situation. I mean, that story is crazy because it is a Friday and I am starting in a couple of packages. But what issue I've had already this season was they drafted 3 rookies, and my career in Arizona has been rocky as soon as I got here. We had Hassan Reddick my first year. He was balling out. I wasn't playing as much. They paid me a really big contract, so that there was like a lot of ups and downs and tips. So that they drafted 3 guys in my position, but I was still playing. So the GM wanted those guys to start playing more. So it's a Friday, and like they decided to release me, and I would never forget. It was the second time they released me, because they released me at the middle of training camp, but signed me right back. So the second time, the defensive coordinator, I was literally in the shower, and he comes and was like, "Hey, DK, when you get out, come holla at me." And I'm thinking he was going to tell me like I might not dress, like they're trying to make these guys play and whatever. But I was blindsided again, because he was like, like it's not my call, but they've decided that they're going to release you, and I wanted to tell you man to man because I don't think this is right, yada, yada, yada. But literally, I just got off the practice field, and so I go home, and I'm kind of like, man, this is crazy. Like, I'm definitely not going back now. I trusted them and came back last time. I'm moving on, but I don't know when the next call is going to come. I got to be ready to like not have a job for a minute. And the next day, I get a call from Baltimore, and it was in the afternoon, like 3 p.m., and they wanted me to hop on a 10 a.m. flight the next day. So I've been living with my family, and I got to kiss my 2 daughters and my wife bye and pack as much as I can in a suitcase. And I took off for Baltimore. So this
is real stuff, man. This is the live stuff. Crazy. It is. It's awesome. Relationships that you build, and ones that you think you have, and the politics of somebody being like, oh shit, we're paying him all this money, he's underperforming slightly, all right? Oh, this guy's a stud, then everyone starts to like him, and then maybe he gets hurt. It's just like there's so many variables that go into it that I'm glad we can hear kind of some of the inside stuff, and like, yeah, that's real stuff. So thanks for sharing.
Less than 24 hours, you had to hop a plane and see in Baltimore. Did they want you to start like within that next week?
Oh, I played that week. I had 3 days of practice. I had to get the game plan down. I was staying in a hotel. I had to figure out an Airbnb that I could move to, because hotel living was awful, and they were only going to cover my hotel for a week. So I had a free hotel for a week, and then I needed to find a place to stay. I played with 3 days of practice, and my first game, I had 3 tackles, a TFL, a quarterback hit. I balled out, and it was kind of like a big low-key F-you to the Cardinals, because it was like, everyone knew I could play, and we had good players in the position. So it's like I played with Chandler Jones, Hassan Reddick, Marcus Golden, So it's like there's no beef because I knew there was good players in our room, but I knew I was a good player too, and my career just wasn't what it was, where I wanted it to be when I was in Arizona. But I was like, I kind of wanted to make sure I showed them and everybody else like I could still play when I went to Baltimore, and I think I did that.
Hell yeah. That's amazing, man. So what's next for you? I think you told us pre-recording that, hey, like, you want to make it to year 10, right? Because that's rare in the NFL. So any thoughts, any ideas, waiting for the right call, I guess, at that point?
Yeah, I think it's the most powerful position you could be in when you could do the things you want to do and not because you have to. So like I want to play 10 plus years. I'm not even going to just say just 10. Hopefully I play 10, 11, 12, what have you. I want to, but I don't have to. And I'm in a position where I get to be picky. So, I'm very hopeful that the right situation comes, that I'm going to get a legit opportunity to contribute defensively, and make a contribution and be a part of a winning organization and team. So that's my hope. But if the right situation doesn't come, then, if I need to be done, I will be done. But I'm training my butt off. If you follow me on Instagram, you're seeing some of the workouts and stuff. I'm working my butt off, getting ready for year 10. But like I'm mentally prepared to where it has to be the right situation. And, I think that's powerful because most guys take whatever they can get. Like, but I don't want to go into a 90-man roster and they got me running with the 3s and 4s all mini camp and training camp, and the writing's on the wall that I'm about to get cut, and I'm wasting time away from my family, away from everything I got going on for a situation where it's doomed. I'm not really interested in that. I want a legit opportunity, and I'll take it and run with it if somebody is going to give me that.
We gotta get Howie on the line, bro. We gotta get you back playing with Hassan. Dude, let's go win that ball here in Philly. It's a match made in heaven. We gotta get that going. If you want to come to Philly, bro, we're gonna win it next year. That's great. I just sold you.
I would.
That's great.
Hey, so backstory. My dad played for the Cowboys and I played for the Giants. So I got beef with Philly from multiple ways.
Yes, I do.
Hey, if they come and get me, I'll turn the Philly green in a heartbeat.
That's so fun, dude. I love it. Oh my god, dude. So incredible stories so far, and just like I appreciate you taking us through through your journey. Now I see this is an interesting take here. I don't know much about the business of the NFL, right? It's like we all see what we see on social media, but what I will say is I think you're doing yourself such a service by promoting your story on social media, and I don't mean just your story of the NFL. I mean the story of who you are as a person and who you are as an investor and how you're benefiting other people. You'd be an asset to go to any team. Like if anyone sees that, I'm an organization that I'm just thinking if I'm running the show, it's like, dude, this guy can not only ball out on the field, but he's going to be infectious in the locker room. He's going to better those guys around him. So whether you know it or not, I don't know if that's any of your play. I think it's just natural to be who you are because you've been just kind of smiling the whole time, talking about doing what you love. And for me, just like as an outsider, dude, it's so cool to hear your story. But I think you as an asset, as an individual, are light years better than a lot of people around you that are playing the same position because you're bettering so many people. So just wanted to say thanks for sharing your story and putting it out there because there are so many people that will root for you silently that you'll never hear about, you'll never know. And they're just like, dude, that's that dude. And I'm not just rooting for him on the field. Like he's absolutely killing it in the game of life. He's got a great family. He's just, you put together and you put on you're a good role model for people to look up to, right? And it also goes to the nominee for Walter Payton Man of the Year. And it's a pleasure for us to get to talk to you, man, because there's, as I mentioned before, we always interview high-level people that are amazing at their craft, but for once it's kind of cool. I played football growing up. For watching someone at the highest level of their game, you're also at the highest level of your game in real estate too. Granted, you might not think so. You're climbing up there, but for people that are starting out, you are, dude. And it's awesome. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's all I'm saying is like the consistency mindset that I know you have. Just keep hitting it because every year that goes by, it's just going to be like, damn, this guy, you just figure it out. Different level. It's so cool.
And I appreciate it. I might need that PSA so I can send it to all 32 teams.
Hell yeah. I'll write it up for you. I got you. Let them know, bro. That's your, your virtual resume or whatever you want to call it, or digital resume. Like it's so powerful, dude. I saw you rubbing shoulders with Ruben and all these guys that like, you're at the brunch, right? And I say the EYL guys, the rooms you're in, not only in the locker room, like dude, your professional life now, when you're outside of the game, whenever that may be, the relationships, you can meet one, I think there's a quote there, like meeting one person or having one relationship can change the complete trajectory of your life. And you could go from being an average person to, a spectacle, whatever it is. I kind of made all those up, but it's one of those, there's an underlying theme there. And I think for you, you're just continually bettering yourself and bettering your life resume, not only in one field. It's both. So dude, kudos to you. It's super motivating. If you can't feel it.
I know you guys said you guys work, and then a lot of people might have jobs and stuff. And like what I've realized playing professional sports is like people say like burn the bridges, plan A, stick to the plan, go achieve your goals and that. And it's like, since when did plan A have to be only one thing? We live multifaceted lives. So where it's like, yeah, plan A is all of this encompassing. Like this is all plan A. So, making that mindset shift to where it's like, you can be devoted, even if you love your job and you're trying to climb that corporate ladder and become CEO one day and keep growing, you can do that while also building out other avenues. And that could all be a part of plan A. And, that's already the case in our lives anyways, because you're not just working at your job, you're a family member, you have friends, you have different aspects of your life. So don't limit yourself. And I think when you have that perspective and you're trying to add value to yourself, you can really kind of take off.
Totally. And I think another important thing to mention is like you're Devon Kennard, but you're not just the football player, right? Like the identity thing, right? Like when people talk about what other people do, it's like, oh, I work in, I'm in sales. Oh, he's the sales guy. It's like, no, like that's not who I am. That's what I do for this period of my life. So the fact that you identify yourselves as a football player for the time that you are one, but you're your own man, you're a real estate investor, you're a family guy, you're all of these things. I think maybe that's what certain people struggle with when they go all in on plan A. And then when plan A ends, unless you're Tom Brady, right? You play 22 years. When plan A ends, there's no like, what's the other plan A? Like, what have you set in place so that you can have two plan A's? I don't like the plan B thing. I like that they're both plan A's. That the rest, I mean, dude, you're 32. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
32. Like,
I'm turning 32 in June. Yep.
Yeah, you're going to live another 70 years, right? So, like, what's next? Like, there's so many things that are going to come your way, and you've just set the foundation. So I think it's great.
I think to add to that, one thing I think is, like, interesting is the evolution, like, people get so locked in on, this is what I'm going to do. And that changes over time. And, your interests change, your level. So, leaving room for yourself to grow and continue to add value. And you guys mentioned like networking and stuff, like the whole notion of like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, like finding people to network, it can, instead of like incrementally growing, you could hockey stick by building a great network and connecting with different people. I look at the people that I've been able to meet and what I'm trying to accomplish both on the field and off, and it has skyrocketed by networking and meeting the right people. But people just say like network is your net worth, and I think that's kind of BS because you got to bring something to the table too. So are you adding value to yourself? So like the knowledge and the network can equal net worth. Like if you have the knowledge, I'm coming to you and I want something from you and I have knowledge, so I'm asking good questions. I have something to offer. I'm bringing something to the table, and now we're networking. That is going to help send me to the next level, not just, meeting people and shaking hands. I want to meet Jay-Z and be like, hey, I'm getting involved in this. Like, what do you think of this? Or would you come on my podcast? Like, what I mean? Like having a legit ask instead of the whole pick my brain thing. Like,
yes, totally.
Dude, you're so right.
It's so right. And I've realized the people that we've interviewed on the podcast that are the real entrepreneurs, the guys who are really trying to network with us and bring value. Like we've had so many situations at the end of the show, we may exchange numbers or something, and they're like, hey, text me these things. I can maybe help you in these areas. And it's like, damn, like they really want to help us. Like, and by the way, now we're going to think of them whenever we're thinking of something that they might like to do or they're trying to get involved in. Not just like you said, pick your brain or like, can I buy you coffee? It's like, dude, I don't need the $5. Like, that's not what this is. It's more so like, you have to do your research. Like, you have to dig in on what this person really needs and wants. And like, I think somebody came to us not sure if we ended up working with them, but they're like, I heard you guys need a bookkeeper or a copywriter, and there's all things that we do need. We may have not ended up moving forward with it, but that's the value. And it's like, you might just hit the right time and we might be like, yes, like we need that, and vice versa for you. So that's advice for people that are out there. Like, do your homework, figure out what these people need, not just like pass out business cards. That shit doesn't work at all, period. And it's a waste of time. So that's a good segue there.
I always go into it's like, what value can you provide to others versus when you go into a network thing, you're like, oh, what am I going to get out of this? Like, you have to flip the switch and be the other way. It's like, how can you provide that value? And then it all comes full circle, 100%. Everything we put out into the world, it comes back. And I fully believe that. So it's just an interesting thought of like, for us, we're trying to, at the beginning, we were like, all right, how can we provide value? We have this podcast. We've interviewed a lot of successful people that are better than us, and we want to aspire to be them. We're already getting the knowledge from the episode. So it's like, all right, how can we provide value to them? We figured out we're dot connectors. It's like, great. I know Devon is looking in XYZ area. He has XYZ in the bank. Now I know this gentleman in that area. How can we connect them? Bang. They go and do a deal together. That's it. Then you guys are good. Let's like, all right. And then it comes full circle. A couple of months later, boom, we got to connect here. And you start doing deals with people like, holy shit. Like, we were just trying to do it just to do it. We thought you guys would vibe. And that's where it comes. Sometimes it's just from listening and putting the pieces together. You don't have to, it's not always providing dollars or sending a book. It's like, it's just relationship building, right? And putting people in the right rooms. So
Absolutely. Oh, that's so spot on.
So cool. We're going to wind down the show. We know you got a couple minutes left. We'll do some rapid fire questions just to, like, at the end of the show, get to know you a little bit better.
Before we get to the rapid fire, one last one. All right. I want to talk about this really quick because I know it came out yesterday. It all adds up. Your new book. We're super excited to get our hands on a copy. Can you talk to us about the inception of the book? Why you wrote it? What are throughout the contents, and then how people can get it?
Yeah, so it all adds up, designing your game plan for financial success. And I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't figure out like what to write about, how to write it. And I just became so passionate about financial freedom and real estate investing. And I feel like so many people are stuck in the rat race of the American dream that we've been taught. And when you look at it, everything that we've been taught are ways to like struggle and be stuck in the rat race. Like go get a college degree, and it's okay if you get in a ton of debt, and buy a home that you can't afford and max out whatever mortgage you can get. You start a family, you buy the nice car, and you get all these expenses, and you live in this life, and it's hard to get by day by day, and you're hoping by it when you hit your 60s. Between your 401k, Social Security, you're going to be able to ride off into the sunset. And more people are getting close to that time period and realizing that's not it. It's not working for them, or they only have enough to sustain their lifestyle for 5 or 10 years, not the next 20, or whatever that looks like. And I'm like, we are young, and we need to acknowledge and figure this out and teach it to people now. And that's what it all adds up is about, is like, man, I think passive income and creating multiple revenue streams is such an important aspect in this day and age. And there's so many different ways to do it. We discussed a lot of them, in the podcast today, but so many people just cruise through life and don't try to find other things. And when we're talking about adding value and figuring it out, and that spread between how much you can make and how much you're spending, like what to do with that, and being creative, finding what you're good at and you're passionate about. I talk a lot about flipping the bag in your life, and there's a concept of like, how do you turn 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, like in all financially, but in all aspects of your life. And I just really poured a lot of myself into the book because it's something I'm really passionate about.
EK, that sounds like the blueprint for a life well lived, because it's you're right, man. It's we're fortunate. I'm sure you feel the same way. I already live the life I want to live, even if I have all these big goals. Like I do, I have huge goals to go be financially free, but like we're already doing the things we like, and I'm fortunate, and we've put money away, and we're investing, and we're on the path. It's the more people that can hear that and read your book and get on that path, I think it's living a life of desperation. Because when you're desperate, you can't think straight. Like you can't make the decision that's best for your future. You got to put food on the table. You got to pay for the kids. You got to do all that stuff. If you can remove that, and kind of like lift above the clouds a little bit, see some aerial view, you can see down on like what path you actually need to go. So many people are stuck in the race, and I love it. I'm definitely going to get it to buy the book. I think people should read it, especially from somebody who's lived it. And I already know the next 10, 12 years are going to be as successful as the last 10 or 12 for you, just based on the mindset you have. So I love it. And yeah, just want to throw that in there. So core 4, we can rapid fire some questions at you just to get to know you a little bit more personally. And then we'll get you out of here. But question 1 is, what is besides your book, maybe what book investing real estate book do you like that you think could help people along in their journey?
Like you said, I would definitely believe my book, it all adds up. But beyond that, Set for Life is one I read recently.
Scott Trench?
Yeah. I thought it was really good. As far as business, I read the book E-Myth, and E-Myth, as far as like setting things up to where you're not in the business, you own the business, but you're not in it, and how to structure business with the big picture in mind. That, like, when I was talking about passive and how, like, the trifecta and how important that is to me, everything I do, like, one day I might be a business owner, but any and everything I do, I'm going to set up in a way that's passive, and you can even set businesses up that way. So that's a big one for me too. Obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was like a staple for me, but I hate leading with that one because it's like, it's so cliche at this point. But for me, it really triggered, really kind of got the ball rolling for me. So yeah, those are the first 3 that come to mind.
Those are great. I think the Rich Dad Poor Dad sets the mindset, right? Then Set for Life gives real life examples of Scott Trench, like someone who lived it and breathed it, right? In frugality and kind of, living a life differently than others to get to eventually live life way differently than others. And then E-Myth, structuring and systematizing your business. Like, it's great. That's a good trifecta, if you will, for books. So second question for us in the core 4 is, everyone's a little bit different on their journey, so this will be fun for you. If we gave you an additional $100K check today, no tax-free, just how would you invest it or spend it given where you are in your journey now?
$100K, that's tough. $100K right now, I would actually loan that out and get 15% interest. So
it's like a hard money or something, or private money loan.
Hard money loan to a real estate investor who's flipping multifamily or single family. I have a couple I've worked with, and yeah, I would get that money to work immediately. And a reason why I decided to go that route is in the markets that I'm investing in right now, $100K is not buying me many properties, because I mentioned Tampa, not buying me a ton. I could in certain areas I could, but and then if I'm using leverage in those markets, interest rates are crazy and the numbers might not pencil out. So that's what I was thinking. That's why I kind of led, like, you know what, I'll take 15K a year off of 100K, and until I find let that stack up for a couple of years, and then put that down on another house.
Love it. Great answer. Question 3, what is the biggest mistake that you've made in either your investing journey or maybe your playing career? I'm curious on both. You don't have to do 2 different ones, but we have somebody who played. So, like, your biggest mistake that you've made and what you learned from it.
Let me start off with football first. So my biggest mistake I made in real estate. So fast forward to today, I decided to end up selling my Ohio properties, and even though I refinanced, they were cash flowing. The county was giving me a headache. I still did not like my property management, and the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze for me anymore. And I just got tired of it. I'm like, I can take this Ohio market off my plate, but I made an egregious error that I'll never make again. And it had a complete lapse of judgment that I had a prepayment penalty if I broke my Ohio sale through the portfolio loan. And I'm in the middle of season. I'm going through being in Baltimore, then I decided to leave Baltimore. I had a lot on my plate. So I'm like, I'm just done with Ohio. Go through the process of selling, and it gets the title, and I get the payoff statement from the lender and saying I owe them, $25K, or it's like, $25K less. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Completely it was just a lapse of judgment, like not like, looking all the way through it. And it was, it didn't hurt me. I made a ton of money on these properties over time, but like $25K, that's significant. Like that's a nice,
that is.
nice chunk of money. And I'm like, I just gotta eat that. I guarantee I won't make that mistake again. So it made me like relook and as far as like systemizing, like making sure I have reminders of all this stuff. Like, so I know on my Kansas City, I have a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 pay down. So it's like I need to hold my Kansas City portfolio for at least 5 years. My management there has been great. I wouldn't even mind buying more. I just like Tampa right now. So it's like I probably won't sell those, but it's just like not now. I know, like, all right, I need to stick with those at least 5 years, or I'm gonna take a heavy payment fee. So that was a mistake I made. That it's hard to stomach. And then football field, I would say the biggest mistake is like not realizing like how cutthroat the business was. Like some of the stories I told today, I can't even lie. They stung and hurt. And it was just like, I didn't take it serious enough. You think it won't be you till it's you. Now I've been cut 3 times, 3 or 4 times now. Like, for a long while, I kind of wore it as a badge of honor. I've never been cut. And it's like, until you're in a position where it happens to any and everyone at some point. So that was kind of a humbling, and it's just reminded me, always kind of never forget that we're in business in all aspects of, the game of football.
Yeah,
love it,
man.
That's great. So last one for you. This is my favorite question in the Core 4. What do you want your legacy to be? So what gets you out of bed every morning to do what you do, and kind of give us your overarching why?
I want to chase financial freedom for myself and help others do the same and impact lives doing that. And, I want to be able to be a person like even higher level than that. I talk a lot about dying on E. Like, so I don't want to save anything in the tank. Like, I want to live life fully today, tomorrow, until the end. And I want to die on E. So many people go through life living so much in the tank. I want to do things smartly and intelligently, but I don't want to be afraid to chase my dreams, to pursue, and be living life on the sidelines. So, I'm going to see me, God willing, going for it and trying to achieve big, audacious goals because I want to die on E.
I love that. That's one of my mentor's favorite lines too. I've heard it a number of times, and you're definitely not, you're definitely on the field. So, you mentioned you don't want to live life on the sidelines. I don't think you have to worry about that, literally and figuratively. So, last question. We made to the last drop. And the last question is, let's say, DK, you can go back to your 18-year-old self and you had a chance to talk to him. What advice would you give him? I always say this with caveat, like not saying he would listen, he may not, but what advice would you give him if you had the opportunity?
Trust yourself and your path. I felt like I always moved a little differently, and I was discouraged at a lot of different points in my life. Like, that whole delayed gratification. I remember nights in college, like I was getting extra workouts in or studying more. Actually, I left college with my undergrad and master's degree. I always just operated a little differently, and I sometimes questioned whether I was right or whether I was like missing out. And like, I would relieve myself of that stress. Like, just trust your path, keep doing what you're doing, but don't let the other stuff weigh you down so much.
Beautiful, man. First of all, I just want to thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to chat with you. We've been following your story for a while and got lucky with you, accepting to come on the show. So we appreciate it. We had a blast. If people want to learn more about you, your story, they want to network, maybe buy your book, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, you guys are awesome. Ever since you guys reached out, I follow you guys on social and all that, and listen to some of your episodes. So you guys are doing great stuff. And sorry I had to reschedule on you a couple times. I know that was
bro.
kind of crazy. But hopefully this is first of many times I pop on. Hopefully you guys want me back. And Yeah.
We'll have you back next week, bro.
You can find me at DevonKennard.com on all social media. It's DOVONKENNARD. I spell it out because people sometimes try to spell my name with the I. It's an O. And then same with my website at www.devonkennard.com. And my book comes out. It just came out yesterday, so order it. I think it can really impact and change lives. So thank you for the support and thanks for having me, guys.
It was our pleasure, man. Thanks so much. We look forward to staying in touch.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the Weekly Juice Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and share with friends. The more ratings we get, the more ears we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you with more high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily tips and tricks and document our own journey towards financial freedom. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice.